And here I am saying, oh no, not the pension system, not CalPERS, not California's pension system. Oh, Zero Hedge, what do we have now? Do you mean they're back in the spotlight? Of course. The pensions aren't going away. This is unfixable. They've got to have at least 8% return to even kind of do okay. And they've been going on years now without anywhere near 8%. And even if they did, I'm here to tell you, because they all these companies and financial institutions and pensions, all of them, they always cook the books. Well, with GAAP accounting standards, we move these off balance sheet. Then when we show everybody how good we're doing, then we put them back on balance sheet, and the crap, we're not so good. But no one needs to see that because I need to maintain my job here and get my golden parachute when I leave. The pension system is done. The pension system is done. And it brings me to my next video, which I'll do after this. Hillary almost proposed a universal basic income in 2016, and the idea is catching fire among grassroots Democrats over at the Economic Collapse blog, Michael Snyder's site. Now, it's not so much that Hillary almost proposed it. I've been telling you these little stories I'm finding. EU zone, this country, oh, they're doing a trial over here. Oh, they're doing a trial over in this country now of universal basic income, which means everyone just gets a bonus check every month. And I told you how that's going to end. Prices will go skyrocketing higher and eat up all that basic extra bonus income, and you're going to be like it was without it. By the way, sorry if I'm clearing my throat and coughing. I really apologize. It's just out of control right now. So cold thing, I came home not feeling too good. Then funny how air and everything coming back on. All of a sudden I'm feeling great, even though I've got this little cough and clearing my throat. But anyway, so I'm that one's next. CalPERS, this is Zero Hedge. CalPERS slashes pension payments to retirees in an additional 2 more California towns. Are you ready for this? You're not going to believe this. By up to 90%. They're left with 10%. Here you go. Well, hold on. I thought everything was fine. I thought the pensions were great and just, had a couple, 2-3 years off of not getting 8%. How the hell do we get... What does that equate to? 90% of my pension's gone. It's my pension and I need it now. Call J.G. Wentworth. While we've yet to experience any large municipal pension failures, and by the way, I'm getting these notifications out of control. Slack, Facecoin, Slack. It's such, there's scams every freaking minute. Hey, we're pleased to announce that we're opening up Facecoin.tech. Come to our website. And I need to find out, turn off email notifications. Stand by. Thank you. Gone. Get rid of that crap. The scammers are out in full force, boy, trying to get you all to, get in there. My advice to everybody listening, stay away from Slack. Get off that damn turd. Cancel your account, whatever you have to do. You don't need to be notified of a conversation on Slack. The cryptocurrency companies don't need to tell you anything on there. It's meaningless. And you risk clicking on a link that's fake, that's scam, and you thought you can get in on a fire sale deal on a coin you wanted, and then you got screwed. Just stay away from Slack. If you get any email from Slack, just hit the thing at the bottom, manage my preferences, unsubscribe, boom, it gets rid of it. So, anyways, back to the article. 90%. While we've yet to experience any large municipal pension failures, which is just a matter of when rather than if, the small pension failures sprinkled across the state of California are starting to pile up. As the Sacramento Bee points out today, public workers in Trinity and Imperial counties are just the latest, not the first, the latest to have their pensions slashed by up to 90%, as their cities admit what most of us have known for some time, namely that they're running Ponzi schemes, which simply don't have the funding required to pay out the benefits they've promised. Trinity County Waterworks, District Number 1, west of Redding and Neyland Sanitary District from Imperial County, are in line to become the third and fourth government agencies to break with CalPERS over the past 12 months, in a manner that shortchanges their retirees. The CalPERS Board of Administration, who is still getting paid and will still continue to get paid and won't have to worry about anything like the pensioners are dealing with, is scheduled next week to vote on ending contracts with the two small districts because they're in default. In Trinity, 5 current and former, again, not that it's a lot, but still, nonetheless, 5 current and former employees will see their promised pensions slashed by 70%. Neyland's 5 beneficiaries will see a 92% to 100% cut in pension benefits, according to CalPERS staff reports. To fully fund their workers' pensions, the 2 districts would have to muster up hefty termination fees. CalPERS asked for that money up front, and then moves the separating agency to a low-risk fund called the Terminated Agency Pool. CalPERS says Neyland owes about $200,000 to cover the long-term costs of its employees' pensions in the Terminated Agency Pool, while Trinity owes some $1.6 million. Trinity has asked CalPERS for a 30-year, no-interest payment plan to cover the termination fee, but the district and the pension fund have not reached a deal, according to CalPERS. Of course, as mentioned above, these pension cuts will impact a tiny number of retirees, but that is all the more telling, as elected officials are only willing to admit to their Ponzi schemes in instances where the political carnage can be managed. Certainly, a handful of people here and there are expendable. As you may recall, last October, we wrote about the unfortunate situation in Loyalton, California, which I do remember covering, whereby CalPERS was threatening to slash pension payments to a group of retired city workers after their city council members failed to understand basic pension accounting and the unintended consequences of terminating their plan. That was followed by retirees of the East San Gabriel Valley Human Services Consortium getting similar cuts after their former municipal employer failed to pay their pension dues. But her former employer, East San Gabriel Valley Human Services Consortium, left a $400,000 plus unpaid bill to the California Public Employees Retirement System, which manages benefits for 3,000 local governments and districts. As CalPERS, the nation's largest public pension, deals with a growing gap between what's been promised and what's been set aside, it may slash the checks of Lynch and 190 other workers by 63%, the rate by which the agency has fallen short. We were always told that it was set in stone. You were always told it was set in stone. Sure. Yeah, this is the first time a pension crisis has ever happened in the world. Have I said it a dozen or 2 times? I have. The Roman Empire had a pension system. Okay? The Roman Empire. Yes, 2,000 years ago. The Roman Empire had one. And it couldn't sustain it. It couldn't pay for it. And it did the same things that we're doing now. Or maybe I should say, we're doing the same things that it did then. Trying to find money, going and getting involved in little skirmishes and wars and expanding the Roman Empire. We've got military bases in 170-something countries. We're about to go after North Korea. You know. Anyways. We were always told that it was set in stone. Now to find out that that's not true, is the sky blue? Is water wet? And I'll add one. How does a posi track work in a 74 Plymouth? It just does. Joe Dirt, although I don't think he said 74 Plymouth. Lynch, who lives in a 1994 motorhome. Oh, she's living the American dream. Lynch, who lives in the 1994 motorhome, said of her pension, that's what she said. We've paid 100% of our responsibility into it. I just don't understand how they can come along and cut so much out. Well, it's like this. You were told, oh yeah, this is what it'll be in the future. Just put this little bit of your paycheck in every week, and the taxpayer will put their paycheck in forcefully, and we'll let this great company manage it. And that great company has failed miserably managing it. And the politicians are at fault, and the management company's at fault, but they're like 2 peas in a pod, so they won't tell you that. They'll just tell you how great it's going to be when you retire. And now you're just about ready to retire in your 94 mobile home. So, Miss Lynch, I've got some great news for you. Since only potentially 10% or so is left of it for you, I'm sure they'll just pay you out in full. Take that 10%, if you happen to hear my video, which I know you won't, but if you happen to hear it, get involved in cryptocurrencies. Get some Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and just sit on those. I don't want to get too crazy with ICOs, older retired folks. Let me just let them stay with their regular stuff and sit on those. Your 10% that's left is going to multiply. Pro tip from Jason F4. Thanks. And right now, fire sale happening on cryptocurrencies as of this date, 9/14/2017. Of course, while they try to lay it off, CalPERS certainly deserves a healthy portion of the blame here, as they've been willing participants in perpetuating one of the largest public pension Ponzi schemes in the country for years now. Last December, we noted CalPERS' decision to only modestly decrease their discount rate by 50 basis points, a move which their finance committee chairman all but admitted was politically motivated to allow, quote, municipalities and other government agencies some breathing room, end quote, rather than lower it to where it should be and take the risk of bankrupting half of the state of California. And here's what we wrote, says Zerohead. This is what they wrote originally. A few weeks ago, we asked whether CalPERS would rely on sound financial judgment and math to set their rate of return expectations going forward, or whether they would cave to political pressure to maintain artificially high return hurdles that they'll never meet, but help to maintain their Ponzi scheme a little longer. The decision faced by CalPERS was whether their long-term assumed rate of return on assets should be lowered from the current 7.5% down to a more reasonable 6%. Well, we now have the answer, and it seems the board erred on the side of maintaining the Ponzi scheme with a decision to reduce the fund's discount rate by just 50 basis points to 7% to be phased in over 3 years, when it needed to be 150 basis points. Of course, this decision should come as little surprise to our readers, as we concluded our previous post with the following prediction. We've seen this battle between math and logic and politicians played out numerous times in states across the country. Somehow we suspect that math and logic will continue to lose. Better to bury your head in the sand for a couple of more years and pretend there is no problem. Meanwhile, Richard Costigan, chairman of the CalPERS Finance Committee, and believe me, I bet CalPERS has a number of committees, kind of like the school districts and the school boards and administrators. Boy, I bet they're loaded to the kilt. Meanwhile, Richard Costigan, chairman of the CalPERS Finance Committee, who owed that, quote, this is just a start, more or less admits that the decision was politically motivated to allow municipalities and other government agencies some breathing room before they absorb the impact. Of course, while CalPERS is the largest public pension in the U.S., it's certainly not the worst off from a financial perspective. Yes, we're talking about you, Illinois. In fact, there is roughly $2 trillion in total underfunded state and local pension liabilities around the country. That said, the situation looks even more dire if you adjust that underfunding amount to reflect an appropriate discount rate rather than the 7.5% dream rate that CalPERS and most of America's other pension Ponzi's use. In fact, we recently took a stab at calculating the real taxpayer liability outstanding to America's public pensions and found it to be closer to $5 to $8 trillion. We decided to take a look at what would happen if all federal, state, and local pensions plans decide to heed the advice of Mr. Gross. As one might expect or suspect, the results are not pleasant. We conservatively assume that public pensions are currently $2 trillion underfunded, $4.5 trillion of assets for $6.5 trillion of liabilities, even though we've seen estimates that suggest $3.5 trillion or more might be appropriate. We then adjusted the return on asset assumption down from the 7.5% rate used by most pensions to the 4% rate suggested by Mr. Gross, and found that true public pension underfunding could be closer to $5.5 trillion, or over 2.5 times more than current estimates. Others have suggested that returns should be closer to risk-free rates, which would imply an even more draconian $8.4 trillion in underfunding. But we can kick this can down the road for a little longer. So feel free to keep buying stocks, irrespective of how close valuation multiples get to infinity. And if you do that, I'm going to be over here playing in cryptocurrency space. Y'all can mess with that. Speaking of which, I saw on Zero Hedge, I wasn't going to cover this. Another hedge fund closing down. This is insane. We don't trust the whole system. We're closing. We're shutting the doors. Not going to read it to you, but I just saw that today too. So yeah, pension system. I'll say it for the millionth time. You ever get a letter, phone call, notice, we such and such pension, you are the person getting it or about to get it or thought you were going to get it. We'd like to settle with you essentially, and here's what we're offering you. It is a massive discounted rate. You're not going to be happy, but it's what we're offering you. And you're going to be upset when you see the number. You're not going to be happy. But I'm going to give you the best advice of your life. Take that freaking money and run. Take that lump sum and run. Make sure you get some precious metals. You got to. But make sure you get into cryptocurrency space. Boy, if right now was the timing you were able to pull that off, with cryptos being smashed for the last several days, it would be a phenomenal move on your part. But I don't know that that's going to happen. So, anyways, take care.